Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today I am here with the delightful Verity Craft, and Verity is one of our guest expert speakers. So she's here to speak to you about how you can use thought leadership in your business. So really keen to hear about that. Before we get started, first of all, welcome Verity.
Thank you. Very
Lovely
excited to be here.
Yeah,
Lovely
to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So Verity and I have known each other for a number of years, and she does a lot of work. She does some work with my business. She works a lot with the EO members and all kinds of things around thought leadership. So yeah, but before we get started, we like to let the listeners know a little bit about you personally and professionally. So can you give us one of your personal bests and your professional best?
Oh, one of my personal bests. So I do a lot of performing outside of work. I do a lot of musical theatre, which anyone who's connected with me on LinkedIn also probably knows because I talk about it a lot. So I think just in general, being on stage and so I'll be on Wicked later this year, and that's kind of what I see as my personal best outside. It's not necessarily one moment, but just being on stage anytime.
And it's really funny because my husband, who I met obviously a couple of years ago, was actually in a couple of stage plays with you.
Yeah, I knew him before I knew you. So
that's awesome. Okay, and professional best? What would you say professional best is?
Professional best, I think, is just how we've managed to grow Intelligent Inc., but really change it. So where it started 10 years ago, which is when it started out, and my business partner started it, not me, but yeah. I've been around for 8 years, is very different to where it is today. And I actually see that as a real success because it means that we've evolved with it and we've evolved it to suit us and our lives and where we want to have impact. And so that's been really exciting. And the fact that, we're still here 10 years later is pretty amazing.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Intelligent Inc. What is it that you do?
So we talk about transforming ideas into thought leadership. So it's all about taking business leaders who have a huge amount of experience and expertise and then helping them figure out how to leverage that and communicate that in a way that's really going to help them be seen as the authority in their field. And what that does is then it helps them essentially become the most obvious choice for people. It helps them bring business into their business, and it helps them have a wider impact so that they're helping more people as opposed to just who they can on a one-on-one basis within their business.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So what kind of businesses do you work with?
So mostly in the B2B space. We find thought leadership works really, really well for businesses who are talking to other businesses because other business owners want to learn more and if they're talking to big corporates, then corporates have huge amount of people who they need help with. So the B2B space works really, really well. But for us, it's much more about who the people are and, whether they actually want to make something better. So what's the impact that they want to have? Yep. And that's where thought leadership sits is, yes, there's ROI for it and there's a financial aspect, but it's also got to be tempered with you're not just in it to make more money. You are also trying to have a bigger impact. And because people can tell that and tell the difference.
Okay. And I think the title that we chose today was having a better business, how you can use thought leadership to actually do that. So share a couple of case studies or people that you've worked with and what you've done with them.
Yeah. So one really good example is a company called Q4 Associates, who are an awesome consultancy who do basically help people create strategies and implement robotic process automation, which doesn't sound that exciting. And when they came to us and were like, we think we want to write a book about robotic process automation, we sort of went, I'm not sure that we do, but okay. But when we talked to them, what we discovered really quickly was that it's about so much more than that. It's about change management. It's about really creating digital colleagues so that your human workforce and your digital workforce are working in tandem. So it's not about replacing your human workforce. It's about augmenting them and making them better. Okay. And that was really exciting. So what we've done with them is worked with them both developing a book, Morris Juby and John, and now I'm going to get in trouble because I've forgotten his last name. John, we love you. Sorry. Have just written a book that just came out just prior to Christmas, which is all about how to do that, how to implement a digital workforce. But at the same time, we've also been helping them evolve their thinking and their ideas, and then putting out content regularly around that. So what I think has been really interesting for them is that where they started a year-ish ago, or whenever it was that we started on the book project, is quite different to where they ended up, and that thinking's evolved, and they've been able to develop frameworks that then they've been able to take out to clients and use. So for them, it's both enabled them to be seen as the authority and really continue to build that reputation that they've got out in the field, but also at the same time evolve their thinking so that their business is actually better as well.
Okay, awesome. And so what's your most favourite project you've worked on so far?
Ooh, most favourite?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure you love them all, of course.
I'm very bad at picking favourites in general. Like, anytime someone asks me like a favourite book or something, I have to give them like 20.
Yeah.
So favourite project, I think some of the clients that it's not like a project, but the clients that we work with on an ongoing basis are definitely my favourite. And the reason for that is that, when you do a project, yes, you can have an impact, but it's nothing compared to when you're continuously contributing to the world. And so, with some of our clients who we've been working with for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, what they've been able to achieve is really amazing, and being part of that is really amazing. And, you become part of their team. And so I think it wouldn't be just one kind of work, but those relationships that you build over time and where you get to know their team as well, and you really get to know their thinking and you're able to push them in new directions. That's really exciting for us. And so those are probably my favorites. I told you I'm terrible at picking favorites.
I agree with you as a coach. It's like when you actually become part of that family and you get to share in the successes and you get to see as things grow, it makes your heart sing, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us the 101 of thought leadership. What does it really mean? And can it apply? Because I get the whole B2B thing, but can it also apply, because consultants, coaches, that sort of stuff, you can go, yeah, that makes sense. Can it also apply to products?
Yeah, so it can. So thought leadership, when it comes down to it, is exactly what it sounds like. It's leading with your thinking, essentially. So it's having some thinking or some ideas or some whatever the thinking is. That could be research and development for products, for example. It could be the thinking that you're doing around developing frameworks if you're a consultant or coach. It could be just the thinking that you're doing around your industry, whatever that is. If you're doing things a bit differently. One of our clients has a fit out company, and so we're at the moment working with them on looking at how we how they make the fit out industry more sustainable. And, while they're not going out there saying, hey, we're not perfect. Yeah. They're out there saying, okay, well, we all need to do better. So what are some of the ways that we can do that, and trying to lead that conversation. Mm-hmm. So you can absolutely do it in whatever field you're in. It's about being willing to kind of stand up, take that leadership position and go, okay, how can we do this better? Yeah. And being really open with other people about that, so that it's not just about improving your own business, but actually going, all right, how can we have that wider impact and be really positive? So for businesses that are, say, a product business, for example, they might sell a specific product, but if they're doing all of the stuff in the background to try and figure out, well, how can we better solve our customers' problems? How can we make this product even better for their lives? That sort of stuff is still leading the way. It's still thinking. And so if you're then willing to share that, that's where you can still really tap into thought leadership.
I was just thinking, actually, we had Richard McDonald on here the other day, and he actually does water. But he's changed the way that water is actually delivered to places in New Zealand by, you reusing bottles, just in time delivery. So I suppose in some ways that is changing the way the industry will work going forward. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's we'll often talk about the fact that you have to remember the two parts of thought leadership. So it's the thought and the leadership. So the thought is what thinking are you doing? What are the ideas that you're coming up with? What innovation are you coming up with to make things better? And then the leadership is really being willing to step out there and actually go, all right, well, we're willing to push this conversation forward. And the two of them in combo is what makes it so effective, because if you've just got the thinking, you might improve your own business, but you might not have that wider effect that you'd really like to have. Yeah. And if you're just out there talking the whole time, you might look really great, but are you really having that much of an impact? So having that combo of the two is really important.
And so what are the common mistakes that people make? Because I've kind of heard a little bit of this is where you go wrong with this. So what are the common mistakes you see?
Part of it is not digging deep enough. So a lot of people will they see thought leadership as the same as content marketing, and content marketing is an amazing tool, and most thought leaders should be using it as one of their tools. But it's a tool. It's a way of doing something. So if you're just putting stuff out for the sake of it, for the sake of putting out content, it's going to be really hard to then be seen as the authority, and you're going to constantly having to be put out more and put more promotion behind it, because actually you're just saying the same thing as everybody else.
Sure.
So it is always about taking it a step further. You know, how can you say something different? How can you get people thinking in a different way or behaving in a different way?
Yeah.
So that would be one. The other one that I would say is just in terms of like building an audience and thing is forgetting the human at the other end of it. And it's the constant promo, you know?
Yeah.
So it's remembering, like, why does someone want to give you their attention? You know, there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
So really thinking about what's the value for the person that I'm out there talking to, whether that's via LinkedIn, whether that's in a conversation, whether that's speaking on a stage, you know, as opposed to it just being, here's how awesome I am. It's like, what's the value actually going to be for the person that that you're talking to?
Yeah.
And then the third one that I'd say is forgetting to bring it back into your business. So this is where I think there's kind of the two extremes, is you get the people that we've already talked about who are like push, promo.
Yep.
That really struggle to become seen as thought leaders because they're not giving the value. And then there's the people who give so much and forget that they still need to make some money and have a business.
Yes.
So making sure that they still have a way of getting into your sort of business ecosystem is really important. And it's something that we've done poorly in the past, honestly. We've all done it. So it's making sure that, you know, it's making it really easy for them to get onto your database because you're giving them something of value in exchange, or it's making it really easy. Like, for example, we work with a lot of authors and help them write their books, and remembering to put something in the book that says, hey, head to our website and download these, so that then you can then keep communicating with them. It's not necessarily about making the hard sell straight away, but it is about making sure, okay, well, how do I keep them to be part of my community and make them a community, as opposed to just someone who reads one post that you do or watches one video or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking, and I don't know, there's influencers out there, but this is very, very different to influencing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Because I mean, I think that especially perhaps for business owners who've not kind of looked at this as a possibility, they might look at influencers and go, oh my God, I don't want to be like that person who's out there. Well, look at me. So how would they take the first steps to think about whether or not thought leadership is right for them?
Yeah. Fear. I wouldn't really want to be an influencer either, honestly. The first thing is to remember that thought leadership is about your ideas, not about you.
Right.
So you use your personal profile without a doubt. Like I use my LinkedIn and my network and all of that to share our thoughts and ideas about thought leadership.
Yeah.
But it's about the ideas and what we want to get out there.
Right.
And that's the difference, is you're not building yourself up for the sake of building yourself up. And I think that actually does help a lot of particularly Kiwis who have the whole tall poppy syndrome, like don't want to put themselves out there.
Yes.
It does help when they remember actually it's about the impact that you can have with your ideas, as opposed to just making yourself look and feel really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's where it comes back to also making sure that you've got the thinking as well as the leadership, because you could just be out there talking and you might be an influencer and you might build an audience, but you know, if you're not backing it up with the experience and with the what you're living in real life, then whatever.
And so there's a lot of thinking that needs to go in behind it, a little structure that goes in behind it. What are the first steps they would take if they were to say, okay, I think it sounds like something I really am passionate about. I really do want to make a difference. I want to sort of, lead my industry forward. Yeah. What would be the sort of the steps they would take to start on that journey?
Yeah. So first thing is to figure out like what you're going to be a thought leader and what you want to, maybe if you don't want to be a thought leader or be known as that, because it's a bit of a term that you don't necessarily want to class yourself as a thought leader. But if you want to build thought leadership or share thought leadership with people, what are you going to do that in? So what's the thing that you can be really specifically the authority in? Yeah. And that's not necessarily going to be the exact same as all of the services that your business provides, because a business can, do 10 different things, but actually it's what's the red thread that ties them together? What's that thing that you do really specifically well? So like we've got a client who works with marketing teams and corporates, and she's identified that, yes, she can help with the strategy and she can help with the coaching the team and she can help with problem solving sprints. But what pulls it together and what makes her where she specifically sits and can be an expert in is how do you unlock the potential in your existing marketing team? So how do you open up what already exists in that? And so that's what she's focusing all of her thought leadership around, is like both in terms of what she shares, but also the thinking that she's doing is like what other tools and frameworks and models could be really useful for that. So that's the first step, is figuring out like what can you be the thought leader in? And I've got a resource that I'm happy to share with anyone who's keen. If you comment or below, then I can. Below, I assume it's below.
It's below on
it's below somewhere and on podcast.
We'll put a link on the
Great,
podcast.
Perfect. So happy to share that. That's like, has some questions to just start you thinking in that way.
Okay.
And then it's about starting to share. And, we always recommend putting a strategy in place, but actually sometimes you're better to get started and then start to build out a strategy, because otherwise you can stay locked for so long and trying to get it perfect that you never end up doing anything. So I always recommend starting to put things out on 1 or 2 platforms. Like LinkedIn is one that I really love using because I like being able to connect with people and have a network. And when I've got a new idea, I'll just make it a post. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it's not anything that I've put more than, a few minutes into. But start trying out your ideas and seeing what people connect with. And then that way you'll get a feel for what you actually should be talking about and where you can really add value to people's lives.
So it's kind of like building an MVP. Yeah. You're going to go out there and say, hey, look, it's not going to be perfect, because a lot of people do get caught up in that whole, oh my gosh, I've got to get this absolutely right because I put it out there and it's not right. People rip me to shreds.
Totally.
So it's more like building a little minimum viable product. You go, hey, look, I've put it out there, give a bit of a go, see what resonates, what doesn't, and then build it from there. But don't just keep going ad hoc. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's like an MVI, a minimum viable idea. Yes, like it's get something out there, see what connects, and then you can build a strategy around that.
Right.
And when it comes to the strategy, it's about making sure that you know who your audience are, and I always recommend going really narrow. So it's often called narrow casting, is be really clear on who you exist for, and talk to those people. Then it's going, all right, well, where are those people? What are the platforms that I need to be on? What kind of ways can I share content? And that doesn't just mean social media. It can also be webinars. It can be a podcast like this. It can be a book. Yeah. Exactly. There's heaps of ways. And then the other thing is, and how are you going to bring them back into the business? Yes. So thinking about that ecosystem. Yeah. So it's who you're talking to, what your message is, what that positioning is, where you're going to be, and then how you're bringing them back into the business. And if you've got those 4 things sorted, then you'll have a pretty solid strategy.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So we always like to make sure that the listeners can walk away with 3 simple things that they can do when they leave this not a room, because we're in the room, they're not, but when they leave the podcast. Yeah. So what would you say the 3 things, if somebody is thinking about this, what would be the 3 things they could actually go off and do right now that could make a difference to their business?
Yep. So I'd say, first of all, start testing your ideas. So pick a platform. LinkedIn works really well. I always recommend that. But, if your audience aren't there, then don't pick a different platform. Yep. But just start trying things out. Just put things out and see what people connect with. Yep. The second one I would say is start jotting down all of those things that you talk about with clients or with customers in conversation. All those little gems that are the things that they're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Or start collating all of those, because you'll start to see some real trends around what the things are that actually people get real value out of.
It's really interesting. I actually had a client who has started recording some of their sessions with their clients.
Great.
And you've got to ask permission first, of course. Yeah. But if you do that and you start listening back, you can actually get those little aha moments. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I said something that was really valuable there. So
yeah, for sure. Idea. Yeah. And then the third thing would be to not try and do it all yourself. And that's not necessarily just a plug for us, but incorporate your team, get people involved, it doesn't have to just be the sole business owner or the CEO. It can be something that everyone gets involved in. And you'll start to be able to pull on the expertise of everyone from the team. And so that's really powerful. So I think just remember that it's not just you being out there as like, woohoo, me, I'm like a thought leader. It's about the ideas and what are the best ways to get those out there. And often that can be through bringing the whole team together and all being part of that journey.
Yeah, I worked with an IT team that actually wanted to be positioned as the leaders in a particular type of IT technology. Yeah. And they actually engaged with their development team and said, you come up with ideas. And every week they would share content from a different member of the team. Right. Which was wonderful because, yes, definitely the CEO was the driver behind it, but the whole team was in behind and wanted to be pushing those boundaries, which is great.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so if somebody wants to get in contact with you and have a chat to you, so first of all, we're going to give them that download so they can actually start thinking about what they want to do. If they want to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. Our website is intelligentinc.co.nz, and that's ink with a K. And otherwise, connect with me on LinkedIn, Verity Craft. I always like meeting new people. Maybe just put in the message that this is where you heard me from, because it's always a bit weird when you get one without a message. And otherwise, check out our website and see there's a bunch of free downloads on there and blogs and things that you can engage with already and get some ideas as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I have to say, I've been following Verity for a long, long time, and she does some quite unique things on there. I've seen her sing on LinkedIn. I've seen all kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend her following her on LinkedIn. And thank you very much for sharing those tips and pointers. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much.